Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Graham from the School of Teacher Education at National Taiwan Normal University. Welcome to my office hours. So in today's episode, Selena wants to ask me about the grading that I do in my class.
I'd like to start by asking what made you decide to use this kind of grading system in the bilingual class instead of the traditional base system that's common in Taiwan?
Yeah. So first thing, for those that haven't taken my class, thank you for watching my channel. But those that haven't taken my class, so in my class, I do a non-traditional grading system called specifications grading. You can learn about specifications grading from the book here on your screen. But essentially the idea is this, is that there are no points in the specifications grading system. All assignments are pass or no pass. And there's a lot of variations of how that eventually becomes a grade at the end of the semester. But essentially, depending on the number of pass and no passes that you have, that translates to a final grade for the course. So why did I do this? Well, the first thing is related to the reattempt part of specifications grading. Specifications grading uses reattempts. If someone gets a no pass, they have an opportunity to change that to a pass. And I think that's very important in teacher education because, well, I have a child and some of you might be his teacher someday. I don't want my child having a teacher that did not understand something in my class. And what happens often, not necessarily always, but often in a traditional grading system, is you get a test or you do an essay and then you get a grade. Maybe it's 75, and then that's the end. You usually look at your grade and you're either happy or sad, and then you move on with life. In non-traditional grading systems like specifications grading, it doesn't end there. You get a no pass, the teacher gives you feedback, and they say, do it again. Take my feedback and try it again. And so the advantage of using that in teacher education is that I give my students the opportunities to make sure they are able to do the skills they need for their future classrooms. So for me as a teacher educator, it makes a lot more sense. It's my commitment to making sure all of my students, in the time that I have, are able to achieve the objectives and outcomes of the course. Now, if we run out of time, we run out of time. And then their grade will reflect that they didn't pass certain things. But if they can all demonstrate passing on all the objectives by the end of the semester, then all is good.
Have you ever had students question this grading system before? Like, for example, some student might give a very detailed presentation. However, someone may just reach that requirement, like a basic requirement. However, at the end, they may guess the same score.
Yes, I have had a few students raise this issue. And when this issue is raised, and if I have a chance to address it, because if they do it like on an anonymous evaluation, then I can't have a conversation with the student about it, which is why I don't like those anonymous evaluations. Because if a student says something, I have an explanation for it, then I don't ever get a chance. So I don't love those things, even though I usually do well. I don't love them. Here's my answer to this, and I think it's especially important for teachers. Why do you care what other students get? Because usually how that question about the system comes across is, well, I did more than this person, so why are they getting the same grade that I did? And my question is, why are you worrying about them? Why is their business your business? You need to worry about yourself, making sure that you're the best, making sure that you are, pushing the boundaries and such. What they're doing and where they are in life is their business. And it kind of goes towards this thing in the education environment that we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. That's not healthy. It's not healthy in education. It's not healthy in life. So I encourage students that think that way to rethink about it. You should not be worrying about what other people get. You should be worrying about getting your pass. And for the students that perform differently, if they have met the expectations, and so it's upon me to make sure that the expectations are high. If people are getting a pass that probably shouldn't get a pass, that's a fault of me. So I've got to raise my expectations. But if my expectations are where they're supposed to be, then if students don't meet those expectations, they get a no pass. And they're going to have to do it again. If they meet those expectations or exceed those expectations, great. They've met the standard.
Do you think if we take ranking away, that this phenomenon will decrease? Like students compare themselves with others?
Oh, and I think it's going to have to be more than just taking. That's not a simple problem. That's a societal issue. So we can take ranking away all day long. That's a societal issue. People are comparing themselves with each other, and they shouldn't. So it's going to take more than just taking a ranking system away to change it. Yeah, I just don't think that's a good way to live your life. So I guess that's another advantage for me for specifications grading is that it doesn't have to perpetuate those things. It has to do with the individual, not comparing to other people.
So back to our grading system, do you think like specification grading system apply to all teachers or subject?
So there are several different types of non-traditional grading systems. One type is standards-based grading, and I think that works really nicely in courses where there are discrete skills. So for example, like in a PE class where a student has to dribble the ball. So you either can dribble the ball or you can't dribble the ball. That is standards-based grading. And so I think in some courses where discrete skills are involved, maybe the maths, perhaps some sciences, some PE and stuff, I actually think standards-based grading is better for those settings. In courses like mine, where lots of skills are involved in one assessment, that's where I think specifications grading is better because you have to meet each of the skills to get a pass. So it really depends on the type of course. And then there's this other type of non-traditional grading system, which I do in my practicum course only. It's called ungrading. There's a book on it for anyone that's interested. It can be good in certain circumstances. And so I think for like a capstone course, like a practicum course at the end of a program, I do think ungrading could be a good option. I tried it last academic year for the first time and I liked it, but I do have concerns about it and I don't think it would always work for all classes. But I guess to return to your question, I do think that there are non-traditional grading systems that can work in every class, but different systems work for different types of classes.
So finally, what do you hope your student learn from this grading system?
Oh, good question. What do I hope they learn from the grading system? I don't necessarily want them to learn anything from the grading system. I want them to learn in my class without thinking about grades. I want them to think about their learning, their progress, not comparing themselves to others, not worrying about getting a certain grade, because that's the other advantage is like, I hope my students aren't thinking about the grades, they're thinking about doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. So that's what I hope the grading system does is takes their attention away from grades. They're not focused on grades. They're just focused on the product. What are they, and the process. What are they trying to do here? There are grades, so it's not completely low stakes where they're like, okay, I'm just not going to do anything. Because there's always the chance, like, if you just don't do anything, you get a no pass.
Yeah.
So you don't lose the kind of push that the grade might give, but at the same time, it's hopefully more about the product than the grade. Cool. We'll end it there. Thank you for attending my office hours. If you have any questions about this episode, about non-traditional grading systems, or anything about Taiwanese bilingual education, send me an email at kmgraham@ntnu.edu.tw. I'll see you next time.